Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
The best baby-proofing company I think we should found is you just hire a bunch of toddlers and just like release them into your house because they will find all the dangers that we would never as adults think of.
Totally agree. That's one of my pieces of advice is when you're trying to childproof, get on all fours and crawl around your house and see what your toddler is seeing.
That's probably better for child labor laws than just releasing toddlers into your house.
Today, I'm talking to a baby-proofing expert. If you have ever tripped over your own feet or accidentally drank or ate something that was not supposed to be edible, this episode may also be for you. If you don't have a baby, you might be tempted to skip this episode, but listen, whether you've lived with my father or you're familiar with the Darwin Awards, you'll know that home safety tips can come in handy at absolutely any age. Because let's be honest, adults are just infants with car keys and a higher tolerance for coffee. So stick around as we cover the safety hacks you didn't know you needed until now. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the pediatrician next door. I'm that doctor friend you call for practical advice about your kid's health. I mix the science of medicine with the reality of parenting. You may know Dr. Darria from Instagram. She's an emergency medicine physician and a mother. Her kids range from 10 years down to just 15 months old. It's her mission to prevent injuries and illnesses and to share with parents what they should do if things happen. Her new online course is called No Panic Parenting. I know it's really hard not to panic. It's kind of part of parenting. It's our job to worry. But what should we actually worry about? Here's my chat with Dr. Darria Long Gillespie. What are the most common hazards parents should look out for, especially when they're thinking about childproofing? But from your perspective as an emergency physician.
When I think about baby safety overall, I think of pre-mobile and then I think of mobile. And I try to help parents kind of break them into those two phases because otherwise, as a parent, you were always worried about everything else all the time. And you're like, your baby is 4 months old and you're like, but what about when they're in a booster? It's like, no. Shh. Let's break it out. So pre-mobile, it's safe sleep. It is car seat safety and it is safe bathing. Drowning is a number 3 cause of death in that first year, and over 97% of them occur in the bathtub. So if I can get a parent to have safe sleep, car safety, and safe bathing, you've eliminated 82% of the cause of deaths in that first year. Now let's think about like the other little bumps and bruises too. So falls. Actually, people think, well, a baby under 1, how are they going to fall? Well, actually falling out of an adult's arms a fall is a leading cause of kind of non-fatal ER visits, those bumps and bruises. And falling out of an adult's arms is actually one of the worst mechanisms because we're holding them higher. We may be falling while we fall down the stairs. So now the baby's falling and the adult's falling on the baby. So I always then want to think, okay, let's think of falls. Adult holding them, or if they're in their car seat up on a countertop. And then we move to the other baby proofing stuff because now once your child is getting into them, then we move from, that's the pre-mobile phase. Then when we switch to mobile, then we move to a lot of the other baby proofing stuff people start to think about. Your furniture on the walls, poisons, electrical outlets, windows, all those things. But I like to break it up, and we can go into more of those, but I like to break it up pre-mobile versus mobile. So you're not always afraid of everything, but you're thinking with the right lens of what does my baby need now to stay safe.
Let's talk about sleep because that's day 1, right? We have all these kids with flat heads now because we do the back to sleep campaign. So what have you seen in your experience that freaks you out about baby sleep? And what have you done for your own new baby?
Yeah. That it is so true. And yes, babies all have flat heads, back in the 90s. And it's interesting because a lot of our parents, when they raised us, we were not back to sleep. We slept on our stomachs. And that was and so sometimes I'll see new moms like, oh, my parents are saying we never slept on our backs. Why do we have to do that? So I always like to frame it like, yes, that happened in the 90s, the Back to Sleep campaign. In the process of doing that, it cut SIDS deaths in more than half. So huge difference. But yes, that is one of those places that we have learned new things. It's progress. Like we learned something new. That's a good thing. The things that really scare me the most is that for parents out there, how much unsafe sleep advice there is online. That is why I created the course. I thought, how can we get good science to parents in the same way that's kind of like digestible? But I mean, I was searching last night on social, and one of the reels that was brought up to me was these twins, and it showed them sleeping, twin babies. They had to have been maybe 6 weeks together in a bassinet with the Docatot in the bassinet with the blanket on them. And I was watching this and I was waiting. I actually followed the account and I was like, oh, good. They're going to tell parents this is bad. I'm watching, waiting. And I realized like, they're not telling parents this is bad. They're telling parents that this is a good way to get your babies to sleep. Oh, and save money. And I was I couldn't unfollow it quickly enough. I realized in hindsight, I was like, I should have saved that video so I could show the people that this is not a good idea. But that is what you see. And you see people who are like, think they're so worried about baby safety. They think they're doing the right thing by putting in a mesh crib guard.
Yeah, I want to get to like the really specifics because I haven't had a baby in a long time and you have recently had a baby. There's so many products out there. So they've said no more bumpers in your crib. Fine. But then parents worried about feet getting caught in the rails, right? So they're putting up mesh. Is that where they're putting the mesh?
Yes.
What's the story on that?
Okay. So yeah, they used to be these little cushy bumpers, which, the CPSC is effectively banned. You can still buy them. Like if you search bumpers, like Amazon said they're going to be pulling things down.
Well, they're super cute and they make the nursery look adorable.
And so my agent wanted to film in my baby's nursery. And I was like, you can, but it's really boring. There's like nothing in the crib. There's nothing cute next to the crib. There's nothing cute above the crib. I was like, we can film, but it's not cute. Like it's safe. It kind of looks, now that I think about it, it kind of looks like the psychiatric room in the ER. Like there's nothing there that they can get. Oh, my poor children are going to need therapy probably because of this. Okay, so they had these cushy ones. Everybody said these should be banned. And then they're like, oh, well, let's put in these mesh ones. Here's the problem with mesh. And now that has actually been recommended potentially to be banned as well. Because you are trading a kind of like a hypothetical low risk. The reason for the mesh is you're like, well, my child might get their arm or leg stuck in there between the slats. Really unlikely with the fact that the crib slats are much closer together now than they used to be. That's code. It's a lot harder to get your chubby arm. You have to really kind of get it out there just right. Then you also factor in most babies, like their bones, like babies are like, they're a lot of collagen. They don't have hard bones like us. They're not likely to break their bone. And even if they do, I always say like, I can fix a broken bone.
Right.
So you're trading that for what is the risk of these? So they say, oh, the child can breathe through them. There is no evidence that these are more breathable aside from that, like, well, mesh theoretically should be. They are an extra string. They can become loose. They can become a strangulation hazard. And we also know that babies can step on the mesh and use that to climb out. And now you're getting head trauma because they actually climbed out of their crib.
Yeah.
You are taking on really real risks of strangulation, suffocation, and head trauma in order to prevent a very extremely hypothetical and low consequence risk of like getting an arm or leg stuck in there.
Yeah. So what about those co-sleepers? I know they put like a little bed in the parent's bed. That's not okay. What are all the products out there like that? And which ones do you worry about?
Yeah. So I worry about all of them. And again, like the CPSC and the AAP have recommended, they said there are no, and so what they use now, it's a little bit confusing. There's always like the academic terms that people are using in the research and then what regular people are using. So now the AAP refers to that as bed sharing. Okay. They're, so if you talk to an injury prevention expert, they'll be like, that's bed sharing. When baby sleeps in your bed, you should not have any device that is in your bed for baby to sleep with you. They are not tested in the same way that cribs and bassinets are. They are not tested for safety. And there's some really interesting stats. We know, that the risk of SIDS increases 3 times higher when you bed share. There's 2 groups of people who bed share. There are those who say culturally My culture, we bed share.
Right.
Now, often in those cultures, they are sleeping on, flat mats. They're on the floor. They don't have our thick, 5,000 count Egyptian down, whateverness, and our thick pillows and all the things that are SIDS risks for that baby. And then there's a separate group that's our parents who are well-meaning and say, I would never bed share with my child. Absolutely not. And then it's 3 a.m. Baby is not sleeping and they are exhausted. And they're like, I don't care. Just come sleep on my bed with me.
Yeah.
So what I always like to do is not shame those parents. I get, we have all been there, but instead for those parents to say, okay, instead of this very unsafe Band-Aid of bed sharing, because those parents often they're probably listening and they're like, yeah, I don't want to admit it. I did that last night. And it's okay. Love to you as parents, anybody listening. But then the solution is not bed sharing. It is helping them get a better sleep pattern in place, sleep hygiene, getting somebody who can help them with their baby sleep to get baby to sleep in a safe way in their crib or bassinet.
Dr. Darria is pointing out the difference between co-sleeping, meaning sharing a room, but not sharing a sleep service, and bed sharing, which is actually sharing a bed. She does recommend co-sleeping as the safest sleeping choice for young infants. Next, we talk about more household dangers that might come up when a child gets a little older. You brought up straps, and one of my pet peeves was anytime a child would come in and they have fallen out of something in which there were straps, but they were not strapped in. So,
yes.
Right, car seat.
So we were talking about falls early on. And I said falls out of parents' arms or out of a car seat. And so the mean age for children falling out of their car seat from a height and getting injured is 4 months old. And that is because in many ways, when kids are older, parents are going to strap them in more because they're like, oh, my 8-month-old rolls around. They're this roly-poly thing. My 10-month-old, my 12-month-old. Parents don't realize that a 3 or 4-month-old can really roll enough to alter the center of gravity, and then they fall out of that car seat. And then the car seat falls on top of them too.
Yes. Yep.
So
all the time.
If your baby's in anything that requires straps, that car seat needs to be on snug. And also sometimes we're like, oh, well, I'm just going to loosen the strap so it's more comfortable. Do not do that. That puts them in a much more dangerous.
Grocery carts.
Yes.
Right.
Grocery cart, put them in the infant seat in the body of the grocery cart, one option. And yes, it takes up your entire grocery cart. I am aware, I have done this. But also I put my baby in my baby Bjorn and I just baby wear them when I go in the grocery store. Then my cart is free, and it also less likely for strangers to be like, oh, your baby's so cute, I want to touch them.
Yes, true. No, I love baby wearing, and I know parents worry a little bit about that, but I'm a huge advocate of all the time, any device. I have not seen anything bad happen.
Watch the baby's head when they're really young, those neonates. Yes, check. Keep a hand in there if you want to feel them breathing, or make sure that their head is turned sideways so they can be breathing.
Okay, we touched on falls. The same with your high chair. You got to strap them into the high chair, right?
Yes. And also a high chair, what I've seen kids come into the ER, keep your high chair enough of far away from the table that they can't put their legs up and push back on the table because they'll flip the chair back.
Wow, that's an impressive child. All right. Drowning. Drowning is the scariest thing in the world to me. Kids can drown in a bucket. They can drown in a toilet. They can drown. I haven't seen them drown in a toilet, but bathtubs, ponds.
Yep. Drowning, you say that phrase, and as an ER doctor, I just it's I get a visceral reaction. The minute you said it, and I've been a doctor, I've been practicing for well over a decade, and I still get that visceral reaction. I just noticed I got that when you said that. And so, that's why I try to help parents think, again, that's where the pre-mobile versus mobile comes in. Pre-mobile, we're thinking drowning. Bathtub, number one place. Yes, do we need to worry about toilets? Well, this is where I liked stats. I am with this course. I dove into the stats. I love it so much. When you look at places drowning for children under 1, 97% of them were in a bathtub. 2 to 3% of them were in a toilet. I think it was actually 93% in a bathtub, 2 to 3% in a toilet, 6% in a bucket. So do children drown in toilets? Yes, but don't go lock your toilet and be vigilant about that and then not be watching your child in the bathtub, having buckets out or anything else. I always want parents, I kind of triage baby proofing. If this is where you need to focus and this is how you need to look at it. Then children above 1, drowning becomes the number 1 cause of death. Remember, it was sleep for the first under 1. And specifically, it shifts from the bathtub to pools and outdoor bodies of water, because now your children 1 and above, they're walking, they're exploring, they're getting into those things.
The next stage we worry about developmentally is that kids are going to start eating. And a lot of parents are like freaked out that their child's going to choke when they first start eating. I know you are not. I am not worried my child's going to choke when they first start eating. I am worried about them picking up objects off the ground from their older siblings or popped balloons, hot dogs. I don't know. What are you worried about in terms of choking?
Yes. And so this is another phase where I like to, again, help parents triage. So pre-mobile, children 1 to 2 are more likely to choke on foods. A couple reasons. They don't have their molars, so they can't chew. They have those sharp front teeth. As we know, they can bite hard on your finger or the nipple or the bottle or whatever. And so they can chomp off a chunk and they have no ability to chew it. I know this is not going to be videoed. I'm like literally demonstrating how to chew. The other thing is when we chew, it is a more rotational chewing,
like
side to side. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just grinding. It's not just like up and down, up and down. Babies just chew up, down, up, down. So they have no teeth. They have this primitive chewing mechanism, and then they end up just kind of cheeking stuff. And they have much smaller airways. So things that are fine for us that we could probably gulp down, a baby can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So under 1, I always, we see, this is another place you can see really unsafe feeding practices. I see a lot of baby-led weaning, and we're not going to go into baby-led weaning, only to say that some people can take it to the extreme in a very dangerous way. Just like most things, you can take it to extreme, and baby-led weaning is no different. I see parents giving children like a big chunk of raw fruit, raw mango. I've known of children who choked on a big chunk of mango or cucumber or different things. When we get older, we get into that 1 or 2 year old. Now they're exploratory. And of course, younger age, everything goes in their mouth. Every single thing.
That's how they explore.
Yes. Older children's vitamins they dropped on the floor. You mentioned the balloons, button batteries, coin batteries, just like Legos, all the things. So it's really tough. I kind of have a list that I give parents. I'm like, here's your most dangerous choking hazards that kids love to swallow. So the rule is anything, there are these things called small parts testers. Nobody has those. But I tell people, buy a toilet paper roll, or not, take a toilet paper roll. If something fits inside the toilet paper roll, it is small enough your child can try to put it in their mouth. So that's why you always want to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
I tell parents to kind of go around with this list. First, as much as possible, I always say remove, relocate, co-locate. Remove first is like, because I also group choking or poisons, chemicals, medications. First is remove. Go through your house. Like, what do you have that you just don't need? You don't even use it anymore. It's an old med. It's an old chemical. It's an old toy that your child got. You're older, just get rid of it. Throw it away. Get it out of the house, because the less you have to baby-proof in the first place, the safer baby is and the better it is for your sanity. So yay. Then take all those things, and as much as possible, take them out of your highly trafficked areas, out of your kitchen, whatever. I always say there's a few places it should be your baby safe spaces or your turn your back spaces or your baby jail spaces, whatever you want to call them. And as much as possible, take those dangerous items, anything on like the list, and take them out of that space. Put them in the laundry room, put them in some other basement, someplace else where baby isn't in a place where you might turn your back on them.
I love the turn your back spaces. That is brilliant. I just want to highlight
let's be honest. They call them yes spaces and all those things, but it's really so you can just go pee. That's what these places are for. Or cook or do something just for a second. Have a breath. Have a glass of orange juice, whatever you want.
Well, like if you're doing that in the kitchen, all of my lower cabinets, I didn't want to keep my kids out of them. So I just put everything in there that they could play with. Tupperware, lightweight things that they can just pull pots and pans out that they're not going to hurt themselves with.
So I love that. So the third step is once you've removed and you've relocated out of the kitchen, you have probably 1 or 2 drawers of things or cabinets in the kitchen you got to keep there. You got to have I keep my dishwasher detergent there. I have my, my Clorox spray, cleaning spray that's there, but it's in one cabinet. And that cabinet is really only accessed for those things. So it is opened less frequently. So it's less annoying to me that it has a lock on it, less ability for failure. And I'm more likely to lock that cabinet back. So that's one. I have one other cabinet that has glass olive oil, glass balsamic, that's locked. And then I take the other thing that parents don't often know about that I know more about, like, because I'm married to an orthopedic hand surgeon, is I see these beautiful knife drawers. And I see kids at that age, they're 2, 3, 4 sometimes. They're old enough to reach into a drawer, but not tall enough to see what's in it. And they go and they paw in it, and that's a knife drawer, and they, cut their hands. So I also take knives, blades, blender blades, all of those. I put them in a bucket or a basket or something, and I put them in a higher shelf so baby can't reach those. So those get collocated.
The kitchen is the most dangerous room in the house, not just for babies and young kids. Dr. Darria and I also talked about being careful about what you put in the trash. First, it seems like a mystery treasure trove to young kids who might go digging in the trash if they have access to it. And the other thing I've seen way too often, and this is a lesson for adults, never push down the trash to make it more compact. You never know who put a sharp can lid in there, and I have seen the worst hand injuries from that. Next, we talked about the dangers of furniture. I know parents are careful about furniture not being able to fall onto a kid, but there are some other hidden dangers here too. Here's Dr. Darria.
I'll never forget working in a small satellite of our main hospital when I was in Boston. And it was more of a community hospital. And a mom came running in. She was carrying her 4-year-old son. I will never forget the image. And he's just like limp in her arms. And she was like, help me, help me, help me. The dresser fell on him. And so we were able to take care of him. He ended up being okay. He had a couple of broken bones, but like overall the child was fine. So that one had a happy ending. But it was like, he'll never forget that. His mother will never forget that. He might forget about it. So what needs to be attached? So anything taller, here's my little rule of thumb. Anything taller than 3 feet, anything that is taller than it is wide, anything that has drawers. Because even, we think of like IKEA had these dressers. We're like, oh, it only happens to less expensive furniture. No, it can happen to any. It's not price point, it's physics. You take your fancy dresser, you pull out all your drawers, you're going to change the center of gravity when a child starts stepping on it, and they can tip that entire thing forward. And the other thing is if it has interesting things on top. So a majority of tip over incidents occur when there's a TV on top, because the kids think that TV is fascinating and they see those drawers or shelves as a ladder. So the TV on top, or something forbidden, like your child was playing with something, you say, no, you can't play with that. You take it away. Where do you put it? You put it up on the dresser. Now your child is going to try to climb up there. So those are the rules, like what needs to be attached. Then we talk about outlets and cords and things. People think about cords, yes, like, electrocuting themselves, sticking the fork in the outlet. 2 things with electrical cords. One is it can be, children like to bite on them. And Wendy, I know you've seen when children bite on the electrical cord, and they get these awful, awful burns around their mouth. And it's just devastating. So there's that. And then, of course, the cords can themselves be a strangulation hazard too. So you always want to make sure as much as possible to keep all cords out of reach. You can either do that by, tacking them down like a nail with a little hook, tacking them down, covering them under a rug, or buying cord tracks that the cord is actually within the track and it's adhesive up against the wall so the child has no way of getting to the cord, or cloth cord tracks as well, which will go around the cord so the child can't get to.
I really want the Dr. Darria and Dr. Wendy HGTV show, How to Make Your House Cute When You Have Kids. I hope they're listening.
I love it. We should do it.
Right.
What I'm saying is if you can do these things that really protect against the really big dangers and worries, then you can actually let your child have a lot more freedom. You're not having to tell them no all the time, pull things away from them, watching them like a hawk all the time. They get more freedom, you get more peace of mind, and your child is safer.
So if you're still looking for a New Year resolution, consider this. Take care of your cords and other hazards. Is there a cord you trip over all the time? A rug you slip on? Also, now you know why an ER doctor's baby nursery looks like a psych ward. If you're into that kind of vibe, check out Dr. Darria's new course, No Panic Parenting. The course is a bunch of super short videos, and it also includes a workbook. The thing that would compel me as a parent to check out this course is that it might just save you a trip to the emergency room, and nobody wants to go there. Dr. Darria says you can create what she calls your baby safety army by taking the course and sharing it with all the people that take care of your baby. And there are definitely lessons to learn on this topic to keep our homes safe for grown-ups too. Thank you, Dr. Darria Long Gillespie, for your passion to protect our families and babies. You can find her on Instagram at Dr. Darria. That's DRDARRIA. For more from the Pediatrician Next Door, find me on the web at pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com. If you've got a question about the weird things kids do, send an email to hello@pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com for a chance to hear your voice on the show. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the Pediatrician Next Door. This show is produced by Red Rock Music. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever it is you're listening. I'll be back next time with more.